Everything we learned from the Cardinals' end-of-season press conference, plus reactions to it all, and what it means moving forward for this franchise on today's episode of Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, and a lifetime Cardinals fan. And I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter X at JD Sports Radio, as well as the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Make sure you come on by, like, subscribe, comment, and hit that notification button so you know when the new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to win $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. So the St. Louis Cardinals end-of-season press conference took place yesterday, and there was plenty to talk about when it comes to what was said by ownership in the front office. I want to go through some of the quotes from Bill DeWitt Jr. as well as John Mozeliak. Get your reactions to what was said and how it was said. Some people were put off by the way that how they answered questions and how they didn't answer some of the questions that were given to them. But we're going to get to that because a lot of people replied on Twitter X. So thank you to all of you who gave us a little feedback there, and we'll get to that. So let's start off with the news portion of all of this. Let's gather everything that we learned in the press conference yesterday. Number one, President of Baseball Operations John Mozeliak will finish out his contract, and then 2025 will be his last season in this particular role. We kind of learned about that the day before yesterday, before this press conference took place. So that wasn't really a surprise, but it's official now. Chaim Bloom will then take over following the 2025 season. This is something that most of us figured was going to happen as soon as Chaim Bloom was brought into the Cardinals organization. Kind of like, well, you're not just bringing him in to kind of hang out and just be an advisor. Like, this is the guy that's probably going to take over, right? But they never said that. They were just kind of like, well, he's here and he's doing some stuff. But now it's a done deal. Like, Chaim Bloom is going to take over as soon as John Mozeliak is done next year. They also announced that Bloom got a 5-year deal with the club and that he will retain the title of advisor for now. And then that 5-year contract won't begin until the 2026 season. So he's going to be your new man that is going to lead you into hopefully the promised land for the Cardinals here in the future. We've talked about the good and the bad with Chaim Bloom. Just recently talked about it in a previous episode about he had a lot of good stuff happen with him in Tampa Bay. There are some good stuff that happened while he was in Boston. There was some bad stuff too. So feel free to go back and check out, that episode. And, if you want to learn more about what Chaim Bloom did, but he was very good in both places at building up their farm systems. That was what he was really, really good at. He excelled at that particular part of the jobs that he had at both places. As recently as August, MLB Pipeline put out their new ratings on different farm system. The Rays have the number 1 farm system, and then Boston was number 7. Okay, so both places that he went, the stuff that he implemented, even after moving on from the Rays, they've continued that, and they continue to churn out solid players over and over and over in a city that doesn't have a very large payroll, doesn't seem to have a great baseball following if you watch any of their games on TV. So they have to do it that way. They can't go out and just buy free agents. And this is what the plan is. The Boston Red Sox apparently had a horrible farm system until Chaim got there. And look at them now. They're number 7. The Cardinals, meanwhile, are at number 19. All right. Yeah, there is some talent in the organization, but they're number 19. Okay. There's work to be done. Bloom is going to oversee that. And his immediate job will just be to try and improve that situation. Okay. Now, when he was asked about Mo returning, owner Bill DeWitt III said that our number one priority is to build up our player development system. So having Chaim in that role is really critical. Meanwhile, Mo's done an excellent job over many years, and his record speaks for itself. I think we have the best of all worlds here. Mozeliak is going to see his tenure through, and Chaim is going to jump in and try to improve what we've done on player development. We're really well set this year and beyond. This is something that I alluded to in yesterday's episode, that keeping Mo in place, what was the thought process behind that? And I was like, what if it's just to kind of not bombard Chaim with everything at once, that this was kind of the plan all along, like that they were always going to keep Mo. He was never going to get fired, even if they had a even worse season, like a season like they had last year. If they had done that again, he probably wasn't going to get fired. He was probably they were going to see it through, let him finish off his contract through 2025. And while Mo is kind of finishing off shaping the roster with trades and signings and things like that, Chaim can focus on what he's been best at in his career, and that's farm system stuff. And then after this next year in 2025 is up, hopefully Chaim is ready to take on all of the aspects of what John Mozeliak does. That makes sense to me. It does make sense to me. As much as everybody wants change and we want Mo gone and you want Ollie gone, just abruptly doing it and then throwing Chaim into the fire and saying, you're up, figure it out. Probably not the smartest thing, right? Probably not the best way to go about it. So having a year with Mo around still to help him through it all, not a bad idea. Not a bad idea, in my opinion. Number 2, John Mozeliak will also be taking on the day-to-day general manager role. All right. Former GM Michael Gersh, he has been reassigned, and he's now going to be the vice president of special projects, a title that nobody really knows much about. All right. Well, I'm sure they'll explain it to us at some point. At least I hope so. But either way, that's what he's going to get paid to do now. Whatever the special projects are, maybe it's stuff that's going to go on in Jupiter and things are going to be building for the facilities to improve player development. Maybe those are the special projects we're talking about. I don't know. I really have no idea. Nobody does yet. So that is something. Also, Mo mentioned that payroll is going down due to the investment in more player development staff and improved technology. We found out recently that over the years, Mo kind of had to make a choice between team payroll or player development when spending the money that ownership allowed him to have. They're like, here is, whatever amount, divvy it up the way you see fit. If you want to go 50-50 on these things, go ahead. But if you want to put more towards another portion, you want to go MLB roster and take away from player development, it's your call. We're going to let you roll with it. He chose to invest more of that money into the on-field product, which is one of the reasons their system has fallen behind. Now, it also, think about it on the other side, though, it might also be the reason the Cardinals stayed as competitive as they have for as long as they have. But it seems now that they've fallen behind to a point that they just can't ignore it anymore. It's a problem, and now they're going to address it. What does the payroll going down mean for the high-priced talent on the current roster? That is something that we're not entirely sure of yet. We don't really have the answers to that because they didn't let us know what payroll is going to be. They never gave any specifics on that. Here's what Mo said about it in the let's see, this is the John Denton article on MLB.com. Said, we don't know what that payroll number is. So in terms of who we might have to trade, that's premature. Yes, this is a reset. And yes, we're not going to be focusing on building the best roster we can, but we're also excited because we have a bunch of young players and we do have some emerging stars at the minor league level. How we augment that over the next few months, time will tell. And part of me finds that hard to believe that you don't know what your target payroll for 2025 is yet. I find that hard to believe. I find it a little shocking that you don't know yet, but we have to take his word for it. We don't really have a choice. But that's essentially what we found out. Not exactly a whole lot of new information was revealed. They seemed very excited about what they're going to do player development wise. They also did a lot of, well, we weren't that bad type of stuff, which I found a little bit annoying. Saying things like, well, we were a winning team this year. We won 83 games. Yeah. But part of it that bugged me was that there wasn't, what I wanted to hear was like, look, this is what has happened. And this is how we admit it. We screwed up. And we should have done it this way. And we made a poor decision there. We tried it. The reason we did it was because of this. And now it's time to rectify things and try to get back to doing it this way. That's what I want to hear. I think that's what a lot of fans wanted to hear. Take accountability for the mistakes that they've made, and that's why we got to where we are. But they never did that. They never said anything like that, which I think upset a few people. I was a little bugged by it. We've got more from Mo because not only did he talk at the press conference, but he talked to media members afterwards. So I want to share some of that stuff with you as he explains in further detail about their plan. Plus, we'll get into the reactions from you, the listeners, not only to what they said, but how they said it and how it made people feel, because it rubs some fans the wrong way. So we'll get to all of that next on Locked On Cardinals. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy. For those of you who do fantasy football, holy injuries this year, right? Like some people's teams, like entire teams have been wiped out. I've dealt with a few injuries myself so far this year. It's tough. It's a tough sport. So your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So if your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks keeps your lineup live. Best place to get real money sports action. You can join over 10 million users and sign up today. PrizePicks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, secure, and when your pick hits, you can get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. So here's what you do. PrizePicks is the best way to win the real money this football season. Which players are going off, right? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. Just download the app and use the code Locked On MLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, download the app today. Use code Locked On MLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Thank you again for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Leave your comments on YouTube as well as on Twitter, X, anytime you guys want. Your feedback always welcome and encouraged. I love how many of you respond to these things and want to have your voice heard. I appreciate you. So we're going to get to a bunch of your reactions a little bit later in this episode. The word being used to describe the Cardinals of like what they're doing right now, it's not the R word that most people don't like to hear, which is rebuild. Instead, they're going to go with the word reset. All right. But make no mistake. Make no mistake. This is going to be a different looking team in 2025. We just don't know how different yet. When talking about slashing payroll and it going down, obviously there are ways to do that with people who are already going to be free agents. Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, Paul Goldschmidt, Andrew Kittredge, Keenan Middleton, just a few of them off the top of my head. Obviously, you're not going to have Brandon Crawford's not around anymore making $2 million. So there is going to be a dip. And some of those roles, specifically, I would think the relief pitcher roles, are going to be filled by younger guys. The other spots seem like they're going to be done by people who are already on the roster, over first base. So we've talked about the Luken Baker, Alec Burleson combo. In the starting rotation, if you're just losing Lynn and Gibson, you've got Palante and McGreevy ready to roll, along with Fetty and then Michaelis and then Sonny Gray. So you've got some guys that you already feel good about in those spots. Derek Gould at the Post-Dispatch got some quotes from Bill DeWitt Jr. Saying that the message is we are going young. That's what they're going to do. It's something that I think a lot of fans welcome, but they want to make sure that the young guys they're bringing are ready to go. That's the fear, is that it seems like you bring up a Nolan Gorman and a Jordan Walker and they don't look ready. For some reason, they're not prepared properly and they fizzle out at the major league level. That's the biggest fear, is that you're going to bring these guys up and put your trust in them and they're not going to perform and the team's going to tank because of it. So that's something that makes fans nervous for sure. Mo says, yes, this is a reset. To get more quotes from Mo here, because he talked a lot after the press conference to Derek Gould. Yes, this is a reset. Yes, this is going to be where we're not focusing on necessarily building the best possible roster we can. I'd like to set us on a course to get back to consistent winning, focus on the buildup of our baseball operations, invest in new infrastructure and technologies, see the groundbreaking of improved facilities in Jupiter, Florida. You may ask yourself two simple questions. What is this and what is it not? What it is a multi-year strategy, a focus on player procurement and development. It's a long-term investment in the organization's future. What is it not? It's not a Band-Aid solution. And this is not an excuse. Focus on the word change. Change. We need to make change to realize our ultimate goal. He continues saying there are some fundamental things we want to do differently in this organization. And then as we have continued success at the minor league level, at the player procurement level, then we can time it right and try to reinvest at the major league level. You can't put a dollar amount on it yet because I don't know exactly what our revenues are going to look like. Ownership is committed to letting us take the first step to make that investment in the player development. Now, personally, and I've said this before, I'm glad they're finally picking a lane. I'm glad they finally made a choice. We're going one way or we going the other, instead of just kind of sitting in that middle road and not doing either or and still not winning at the major league level. That's a bad spot to be. If what they're doing at the major league level was still winning them games, like if they won 90 games this year with the model that they had been following, if they got division titles, they're probably not making this change, that we're seeing. Which, again, is like kicking the can down the road. You're still not fixing the real problem, which is down here in your minor league system and developing players to come up. That way you're not always having to go buy guys, But the last few years of disappointment, and I'm sure the fans' lack of attendance had some movement on what's going on here, has kind of forced them to take the plunge and fix this problem instead of just masking it. And, masking it with bloated contracts to guys who aren't moving the needle at the major league level. When you go to free agency and you see these guys that you can get and bring them in, and the difference makers, the Trey Turners, Aaron Judge was a free agent, what Juan Soto is going to do for wherever he goes. Like, those are difference makers, but they're so expensive. And instead, you're spending more money on guys who are just kind of there, and they're not going to win you championships. They're just going to keep you competitive, but you're overpaying. You're overpaying for them. What the Cardinals used to do very, very well is they would have homegrown talent come up through their system, and then you would supplement that talent with a couple of free agents here and there, with a trade here and there, and that's how they used to win ball games. And over time, that process has been reversed. Really, that instead of homegrown talent coming up, they kept buying and getting players from other places, either free agency or by using what homegrown talent they had to make trades, like the Marcell Ozuna trade. They gave up a significant amount of stuff there, and you saw Zach Gallen and Sandy Alcantara move on to have great success. That's what it cost them to go get that bat, because they hadn't developed a bat like that on their own. And so what they ended up doing is they spend all of this, and then they have to supplement those expensive players with the cheap pieces from their minor leagues, and those guys weren't good enough. They weren't good enough. And prices keep going up and up and up. And if you pay the wrong guys, you get trapped. And that's essentially what has happened here, is that they spent $175 million on payroll, and you're just not getting the benefits of how much money you're spending. Not a single starter in the rotation this year when the season started came up through the Cardinals system. They bought their whole rotation. They went out and bought Sonny Gray, Kyle Gibson, Miles Michaelis, Lance Lynn, and Steven Matz. One of the most expensive rotations in all of baseball. But none of them are considered one of the best pitchers in baseball. And no offense to Sonny Gray, he's very good, but I don't think you're listing him as a top 10 guy. I just don't think you are. Like, he had an incredible season with Minnesota last year. This year, a very good season with the Cardinals, but upper echelon, he wasn't even an all-star. Arenado, 10th highest paid player in 2024, $35 million. Goldie was tied for 27th, $26 million. Neither lived up to those numbers. Miles Michaelis, you've heard me complain about him plenty. 23rd highest paid starting pitcher in baseball. Yet, he's one of the worst statistically in the league. Matz is 45th in the league in payroll. Gibson, 48th. Lynn and Sonny are at 52, but Sonny's contract spikes big time this upcoming year, and the following year after that, he's going to go to $25 and $30 million. Outside of Sonny, none of them should be making more than what Eric Fetty makes, who is 67th in the league at $7.5 million. But because of the price of free agency, it's just so high. You get these bloated deals because it only takes one team to overpay for one guy, and then everybody's got to overpay for guys. It's that domino effect. And these guys aren't worth it. They're not worth it, and you're not winning with them anyway. It would only be worth it if you were coming home with titles, and they're not. They're just barely getting by 500. So change had to be made. Changes have to come, and I'm glad it's happening. I am glad it's happening. Play at the major league level might suffer because of it, but again, at the same time, we're not talking about a roster that was winning that many games anyway. The fear is like, oh my gosh, we're going with the youth. We're going to suck. Maybe not. It's not like this team that we just had was that great. It wasn't. So shedding this payroll and stuff, it may not be as bad as we think. But it could get worse. If they end up trading away Arenado, Sonny, and Contreras, and are like, everybody goes, and it's all youth guys that things might get back into the 70-win range in 2025. So that's a scary thought, obviously. We don't want that, but we'll see. We're not quite sure what payroll is going to be yet. And I think the fan sentiment is if you're going to be a 500 team, if you're just going to be the middle of the road, then at least make it worthwhile. And while we're in this funk, go fix the issues in your system that you have going on. And that's what they're doing. I want to get into the fan reactions. I want to do some of those yet. I've got a couple of more reactions of my own about what we saw yesterday and what we heard yesterday. So we're going to jump into those coming up here next on Locked On Cardinals. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Sometimes you'll be watching a game and you sense a trend happening. You kind of get a hunch on how things might go. I mentioned the Packers on Sunday that I could just tell things were not going to go well after the way that first quarter looked. Things were just off. It wasn't flowing right. Offense didn't look right. Jordan Love looked hurt. I was like, oh boy, no, this isn't going to be good. They did make a comeback, but still ended up losing. And when you get feelings like that in the middle of a game, you can hop onto the FanDuel app and be able to make any bets that you want through there. And at the same time, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on that very same page where you place your bets. So it's very convenient. It's very nice. FanDuel has done a fantastic job with their app. Thursday Night Football right around the corner. This week, you got the 3-1 Buccaneers at the 2-2 Falcons. Baker Mayfield, dude, he's been something else this year. I got Patrick Mahomes and Mayfield on my rosters for fantasy teams this year, and I'm starting to go with Baker. over Patrick Mahomes. He's just been on a different level so far. He and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin have just been a problem. So I like the Bucs in this one. Current line, Bucs favored by 1.5. I think they'll cover. There was some speculation on whether Mike Evans is going to play or not. He's been dealing with some injuries. He's always hurt. But I still like the Bucs in this one. With FanDuel, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball that makes getting tickets faster and easier. What will the crowds look like in 2025 with all of these changes? We don't really know just yet, but my guess is outside of opening day, plenty of good seats will remain. That's my guess for 2025, at least to start. They start winning games and stuff, it'll pick up because Cardinal fans love to watch good baseball and see winning baseball. So, but even for opening day next year, Gametime is the place to go. It's the app to be at for all of your ticket needs, whether it is baseball or, we're NFL, college football, NBA, college basketball's coming up, concerts, comedy, theater. Gametime has tickets to all of your favorite events. Anything you want to be a part of, they can get you into. They've got all-in pricing. You get seat views, which is great. Just take the guesswork out of buying not only MLB tickets, but all of your tickets, any tickets to anything you want to be at with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB, which is LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen today. Now go check out Locked On MLB. That podcast with Sully. He's got everything covered when it comes to what's going on here in the postseason. We got wild card games going on today. Yesterday was a pretty exciting day. The Mets and Atlanta games were a whole lot of fun. I was more involved in the press conference stuff going on with the Cardinals than I was watching those games, but that first game was bonkers. And you can go find the link to Locked On MLB in the description so you don't have to search, but stay up to date, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And obviously we're going to talk playoffs here on the Locked On Cardinals podcast here, where we'll do that as well, because even though the Cardinals aren't there, we're baseball fans, right? So that's what we'll be doing. We'll have some stuff going on about the playoffs here. How about reactions to the press conference? All right. So my personal feelings on this one, I'm never a big fan of the smugness. I don't even know if that's a word, of John Mozeliak at times. I don't hate him, and I'm sure he's a nice guy. Never met him personally. But some of the arrogance and stuff that just is the way he is, it just rubs me the wrong way sometimes. Like when he comes out cracking jokes, oh, I guess you're stuck with me for another year, sorry, or what. Like, I don't need to hear that stuff, man. It's kind of annoying. It's not really funny. This isn't a joke, what you're doing right now. Like, our organization is a mess. Like, why are we joking to open up your press conference, man? Just give me answers. They kept talking about how good things used to be, and hey, things suck now, but like, remember like 10 years ago we were awesome? Like, yeah, we know. We would like to get back to that. Can you just kind of explain to us how you're going to fix it and how you're going to get us back to that spot? I also mentioned accountability. Admit that you messed up. Tell me where things went wrong. Go, look, this is kind of where we were at. We decided to go here. It didn't work. And that's on me. I made a decision, and we did not end up winning championships like I thought we were going to. And now we're kind of paying for it. And we gotta fix it. We gotta get back to doing things the way it used to be. And we're going to. That's the goal, and that's what we're attacking. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear about your war stories from back in the day and how good you were then. Like, it's about now. What have you done for me lately? That's what we need to hear. Not about the past. And when asked about attendance, they they kind of mentioned it was a phrase that they had to sell this team to the fans. They said that, and I forget who said it. And I was like, what? I was like, don't sell me the team. Don't don't polish a turd for me. Just be honest. Be honest about it. I don't need your gimmicks. I don't need your bobbleheads. I'm sure that works for families and stuff, whatever. But I don't need that. I need a winning baseball team, you guys. I need one that has some direction. I need something that plays well, fundamentally good baseball on the field. That's what I want to see. And if you lose playing the right way and doing it the right way, Cardinal fans are going to still support you because at least you're doing it the right way. I don't need your distractions to get me into the ballpark. I need you to fix the on-field stuff. I need you to figure out why you can't hit with runners in scoring position. Stuff like that. Anyway, let's go through some comments from the listeners out there because we had a lot of them. Brent, a lot of nothing was said. A lot of easy questions were dodged. It sounds like Mo will be on autopilot running the MLB team while Bloom builds the development system. Ollie will have to treat this year like he is fighting for his job and do the best with the players he is given. Randy says, kind of sitting in the same limbo we were all in before the press conference. A lot of the business side of things. To be honest, fans don't care much about the business side of things. I understand they're important, but now 2 years in a row, we're in the same boat. And that's one of the things is, you're listening to a baseball podcast. So obviously baseball is a big deal to you. And there are nerds like us. That's not a derogatory statement. Nerds like us that love all of the aspects of what it takes to run a major league franchise. But a lot of fans only give a crap about what's going on the field. Like, why is somebody who sucks in my lineup every day? Stuff like that. And so I understand that. But there's a reason why certain things happen on the field because of the business side. So hopefully we're explaining some of it a little bit better for fans like Randy who aren't so much into the business side, but need to understand why they have to do this to do this on the field. So hopefully we've made it a little easier here. Kason says, I thought it was okay. Mo deserves more credibility for moves he's made in the past, like Beltran, Hayward, Goldie, Nato. I'm very excited now for our future. Chaim will be a great successor. We will be back. And that's the thing, too, is John Mozeliak is going to get a red jacket one day. Like, he's going into this Cardinals Hall of Fame because for most of his tenure, things were really, really good. The back end here, the back nine, or probably less than that, your final 3 or 4 holes here, that's where the problems have been. And, he's going to get this final year to help push everybody in the right direction. And then he's going to float away and end up probably being an advisor of some sort. But he's trying to get it situated so Chaim is not set up to fail. And I respect him for that. And I understand why he's coming back one more year. I get it. Aaron says, don't like Mo staying for another year, but understand so Chaim can focus on improving player development this season before taking over president of baseball operations role. Feel good about what Chaim can do, but worried about Bill DeWitt Jr. turning the payroll into Tampa Bay. Well, here's my thing with that. If you pull payroll down super low and you're talking like $100 to $120 million, you can still win with that if you are doing it right, if you're picking the right players, and that's essentially what John Mozeliak's supposed to be doing. I've said this before, he's doing the shopping, he's picking out the ingredients to make dinner, and he's overpaying for a lot of ingredients that actually didn't work out so well with the meal that we were hoping to get, right? And they're going to have to learn to do it a different way. Now they're going to have to be a little more choosy. They're not going to get into bidding wars for guys who are making $300 million. You're not going to see that. Not that we ever really did, but you're not going to see that anymore. You know what I mean? Like the thought that you're going to go into the offseason and be like, hey, we could probably buy Blake Snell. Don't even think about it anymore. It's over. Those days are gone. They're not going to do it. The idea is to grow a Blake Snell and to build these kind of guys and then continue on your way with them. And then when they get priced out of range, hopefully you have another grouping of youngsters that are coming in next. It's a solid plan. The hard part is making sure you get the players to do this, because you've got to make sure that they become good players. You can't just draft them and go, all right, we took him first rounder. He's coming up in 2 years. Doesn't work that way. You got to be better down when you're developing players, and that's where they're going to put all this extra money. So instead of buying an expensive piece like a Steven Matz or a Miles Michaelis or, whoever, instead that money's going down to player development instead. All right. And I think if that churns out a couple of good players instead, I think you're okay with that, because you see some of the contracts that the Cardinals give out and you're like, really? Really? Is that what we want to do? So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on that one. And then Dangerous Mind here. They refuse to be held accountable, and Mo refuses to step aside to a new role and in effect punts all the problems to 2026, which is beyond stupid. The accountability thing I talked about, I don't like that they can't just admit that they aren't perfect and that they've made mistakes. Like, we know you did. Why don't you just say it? That's all people want to hear, is like, hey, we're sorry. We screwed it up. But now we're going to go things and we're going to try to put it in a different way now and see if we can win that way. We don't want to do it this way anymore because it's not working. And as far as punting all the problems in 2026, it's got to start somewhere. Like, you have to start somewhere. You can't just do it now and then expect them to win next year too, when they're making all of these different changes. It's going to take time to develop the young players. And, they brought that up in the press conference too. We're like, dude, we're excited about our youth. And there are some exciting pieces that they do have in their minor leagues. Like, I know I saw that ranked 19th overall. That's because there's not a lot of depth down there, but there are some good players that might become great players. Some of them may not work out, but I'm excited for JJ Weatherholt. I'm excited for what I saw from Chase Davis this year, your recent first round draft picks of the Cardinals. McGreevy turning into what he's turned into. Super. I would like to see what's going on with Zach Thompson. I want to see what's going on with an Ian Bedell. Matthew Liberatore taking over that role in the bullpen and being as good as he was. I'm excited about that. Can they make some trades with some of these veteran guys to bring in more guys that are like that? Maybe there are some teams out there that are in a very much win now situation and are willing to take on a Miles Michaelis or, I know these guys got no trade clauses, but have a conversation with Nolan Arenado about going to the Dodgers to grab some of their prospects. Have a conversation with Sonny Gray. If he doesn't want to be around for this, is there somewhere you would like to go? And maybe we can work something out. There are teams that would love to have him as their number 2 or number 3 guy and be a dominant force. So they're tough conversations. It's a bummer that it's coming down this way, but this is the direction they've chosen, and it's going to take time, unfortunately. So, but it doesn't mean the season's over. Like, the 2025 is just going to suck. It doesn't mean that. What if these young guys all step up to the plate and are able to perform at a higher level? Like, what if that does happen? It could. They could also suck. That could happen too. But it's just that's what we got. That's what we got right now. And I'm sure we'll learn more as things progress and move forward. Again, I'm hoping to have a lot of the people that covered the press conference to come on the show and chit chat with us and give us their thoughts. So more of your thoughts, let me know. Hit me up in the comments section. Hit me up on Twitter X. Would love to continue the conversations with all of you. Again, thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, give us a follow on Twitter X at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like, subscribe on YouTube. It helps push the channel out there. And that way more Cardinal fans can join in this conversation with us each and every day. Again, I got you covered through the whole off season. We're not going anywhere. We're still 5 days a week. That's not changing until late in the year. So don't disappear. All right. We've got plenty to get to. It's going to be an interesting offseason, and I hope you stick with us for the entirety of it. You guys are the best fans in baseball for a reason, and I will see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.